early days of the 21st century, we are still fascinated by trains. Perhaps because some of us played with model trains as children, or perhaps because they take us on a journey that's both pre-programmed and yet still an adventure. My name is Magellan Egoyan, and I am your host for a series of clips on Second Life geography. In the last installment, called Colored Gods, I presented to you the Great Second Life Railroad, which runs through 7 of the second wave sims named after colors, from mocha to purple. Today, I propose to follow another railroad, this one called the Second Life Railroad, or SLRR. It's actually all part of the same network, as there is a ferry that takes us from the Great Second Life Railroad terminus in purple to the Second Life Railroad terminus in Cecropia on the northern continent, or rather on the northern isle of the northern continent. The SLRR has never been entirely completed, despite efforts over 2 years. However, it serves as a good introduction to a chain of regions on the northern isle of the northern continent that loops right round the Central Sea. This map shows the route followed by the train. We shall begin our explorations at the terminus of the Great Second Life Railroad in purple, and wait for the ferry to carry us across to the Northern Isle. The terminus in Cecropia is a trunk line off the main railroad, which actually begins at the Tulip Tree station, about a half a kilometer to the east. Following the tracks north from Tulip Tree, we cross Kalita, where the trunk line meets the main line, and which seems to be characterized by a high degree of lag. The railway then turns northwest into Oculia, Nermogen, and Imperial. Here we notice that the railroad follows an embankment to the left, with the land dropping away to the right. This will be the pattern of the railroad for the next 8 kilometers. Remember the train stations in Tulip Tree, Oculi, and this one in Ashaman. Each station has a unique style, and they have often been built to reflect the character of the human occupation of the nearby landscape. Hence, this station in Ashaman sits just below the Zen Gardens of Ashaman, an absolutely delightful garden space where you can meditate, do Tai Chi, and watch the view. We pass the station in Obscure and continue on into Mater, Rivata, and Epiro. Here, when we peek over the top of the embankment, we encounter the Wall, another large and fixed feature of the northern continent, worthy of a clip in its own right. At Epiro, the railway turns west, with the cliff face behind it to the south. The spectacular landscape in Jodis and Ribita are further enhanced by the sunset colors of the sky. In Idia, we take another peek over the top of the embankment to see where the Wall is now. At Jubata, with this delightful working mill, the railroad is interrupted for a small distance by the Sinica Sim. On the other side, the railway begins again in Torva, with the first station in Spini, this delightful station with an upper deck and a tower. The railroad now takes us north, even northeast, through Athetis and Deltote to the train station in Lota, which showcases the technology of wind turbines. In Conchina, the railway is crossed by a pedestrian bridge. We move on through Lunalis and La Para and arrive at the station in Arches. Here we encounter a sculpture created by my good friend Sun Thunders. We are now at the northernmost section of the railroad, which begins to turn southeast from here to the end of its journey. We cross Sabre and Tainiatum, both characterized by high-rise buildings. Here, we have lost the embankment on the left as the land becomes more level, although we are still high up compared to the lands on the right. In Clearwing, the station straddles the tracks which end here, and a new set of rails begins. We encounter another station in Crenulate, move through Burnett and Peeny, and stop again at the station in Aglia. Now we arrive at the Tenera train station, this rather interesting looking building, half station, half sculpture. By the time we get to Zale, the land has flattened out on both sides of the track, and we have dropped to a lower altitude. We sense we are nearing the end of the line. Sure enough, within half a kilometer, we reach the terminus at Bhaga. We have hence completed a journey of some 6.5 miles, or just over 10 kilometers, that took us around the inner ring of the Northern Isle. I hope you enjoyed the excursion. See you next time.